Hello, hello, hello. So, here's the deal, dear viewers. I was live streaming this moments ago, and then we ran into some unfortunate technical difficulties. I restarted my router. I did everything I could to fix the situation, but for some reason, the connection is just not that great tonight. And so, I am having to resort to recording this as a pre-recorded video instead. So here we are. Now, let me get the microphone just right. Now, just like when I was doing this as a live stream, unfortunately, it is currently extremely hot here. And so, yes, that is the air conditioner you hear in the background. It will click off and on from time to time, so we won't have to be annoyed with it constantly, fortunately. But at the same time, it's so hot right now that having it off completely is just unthinkable to me. It's really bad where I am. So there it goes. It's about to click off again. So please bear with that. It's just a temporary inconvenience that we have. And other than that, let us get back to our analysis of the nature of the psyche, a Seth book by Jane Roberts. So, if you're watching this after the fact, which, well, you should be. I mean, this is a pre-recorded video, but I mean, if you're watching this after the live stream I did where we started this chapter, we're just going to pick up right where we last left off. Here early on in the chapter. So let me take a sip of water and we'll get on with it. Okay. I mean, yes, it's not the same doing this not live as a pre-recorded video because I can't have the chat here. You know, I wish I could chat with people when they come in, or if this was a live stream, but that's not what we have, sadly. But we just have to make do with the situation. Like, I know it's so cliche to blame things like this on Mercury retrograde, but I do have to say, we aren't even in any ordinary Mercury retrograde right now. We're in a very, very bad one that is in hard aspects to both of the malefics by sign. And it's not good. So these are the kinds of things that can happen during such a time, unfortunately. But so anyway, we must persist regardless. So let us continue. When you are dealing with normal waking reality, you are operating at one level of the many that are native to your psyche. When you are dreaming, from underlined your viewpoint, you are entering other levels of reality quite as native to your psyche, but usually you are still experiencing those events through your current quote-unquote waking station. The dreams that you remember are colored or altered or even censored to a certain extent. There is no inherent psychological or biological necessity for this. Your underlined ideas and beliefs, however, about the nature of reality and sanity have resulted in such a schism. Let us return to our friends, Rupert and Joseph, watching Star Trek, as each of you watch your own favorite programs. Rupert and Joseph know that Star Trek is not quote-unquote real. Planets can explode on the television screen, and Rupert will not spill one drop of coffee. The cozy living room is quite safe from the imaginary catastrophes that are occurring just a few feet from the couch. Yet in a way, the program reflects certain beliefs of your society in general, and so it is like a specialized mass waking dream, real but not real. For a moment, though, let us change the program to your favorite cops and robbers show. A woman is shot down in the street. Now this drama becomes, quote-unquote, more real, more immediately probable, less comfortable. So watching such a program, you may feel slightly threatened yourself, yet still largely unconcerned. Some of my friends may not watch such programs at all, but instead look at wholesale sagas or religious dramas. A preacher may stand golden-faced, earnest-eyed, extolling the merits of goodness and damning the legions of the devil. And to some of my readers that devil, unseen, never appearing, may nevertheless seem quite real. You form certain focuses, then. You will blithely ignore certain televised dangers as sheer good adventure, while others may strike you to the heart as quote-unquote too real. So in your waking and dreaming experiences, you will make the same kind of distinctions. You will be touched or untouched by waking or dreaming events according to the significance you place upon them. If you do not like a television program, you can switch to another with a mere flick of the wrist. If you do not like your own physical experience, you can also change to another, more beneficial station, but only if you recognize the fact that underlined you are the producer. 10:15. In the dream state, many people have learned to escape from a bad dream by waking up or altering the focus of consciousness. Rupert and Joseph do not feel threatened, again, by Star Trek. Long pause. The program does not make them feel less safe. When you are in the middle of a frightening physical experience, however, or caught in the throes of a nightmare, then you wish you knew how to, quote-unquote, change the station. Take your break. 10:20 to 10:44. Dictation, briefly. You can often get carried away by television drama, so that for a moment you forget that it is, quote-unquote, not real, and in your concentration upon it, you can momentarily ignore the greater reality about you. Sometimes you are deliciously frightened by a horror program, for example. You may feel compelled to see how it comes out, and find yourself unable to go to bed until the horrendous situation is resolved. All the time you know that salvation is nearby. You can always switch off the program. If someone watching a gory midnight special suddenly screams or shouts or leaps up from the chair, how comical this seems, because the action is appropriate not to the quote-unquote real situation, but geared instead to a pseudo-drama. The yelling and screaming will have absolutely no effect upon the program's actors, and will alter the drama not one whit. The appropriate action would be to turn the station off. I love that way that Seth puts that, where is it? Again, where did those words go? Deliciously frightened, yes, because I've thought of that before, where it seems like a weird paradox. They say that one of the best ways to develop yourself spiritually is essentially to focus on the positive, to focus on what feels good, and yet even like the average person can be swept away in, say, a really good horror movie. I mean, I know some people like horror movies more than others and things of that nature. I have kind of mixed feelings about them. Like, despite popular belief, I actually hate a lot of horror movies. I hate probably the majority that come out today, but that's another issue. And I don't like, again, contrary to popular belief, I don't like a lot of gore. I don't like a lot of what is intensely disturbing. I don't like anything that seems a little too real. I'm not that person. People seem to think that I am just because, I don't know, paranormal videos in the past or whatever, but I'm not that person. However, all of that said, there are certain kinds of horror that I do enjoy immensely. But the overall point I'm making, though, is it seems weird because you're not focusing on something that is necessarily all love and light. If you're watching a really good horror movie, instead, like Seth is saying here, you could be focused upon something that is of great disaster, and yet the feeling is still a good one overall. Like, it's still this delicious feeling, this deliciously frightening feeling that you get from a horror show or movie or whatever it happens to be. So I think that's kind of funny how, like, they say, oh, think positive and do what makes you feel good? Well, sometimes I think what makes us feel good is not what we are necessarily going to think makes us feel good. And then there's different opinions on that as well. Like I know for me personally, I prefer not to allow certain things that I consider more or less to be garbage to enter my consciousness if I can help that. I prefer to just not expose myself to them. But what is garbage to me might be something that is incredibly enticing and deeply interesting and thrilling to another person. And so I guess it's to each their own, as they say. I know in particular from my study of astrology that certain signs will be into one type of thing that other signs will not like at all. I could give examples, but then I'll end up talking for 3 hours about that. So let us resume our Seth book. In this case, the frightened perceiver knows full well that the terrible events on the screen will not suddenly explode into the living room. When you become caught in frightening physical events, however, it is equally foolhardy to yell or shout or stamp your feet, because that is underlined not where the action is. Smiling. Again, you have only to change your station, but often you become so engrossed in your life situation that you do not realize the inappropriateness of your response. Isn't that interesting? In this case, you are yourself the programmer, and the true action is not where it appears to be, in the exterior events, but instead in the psyche, where you are writing and performing the drama. In the dream state, you are writing and performing underlined many such dramas. End of dictation, 10:57. Seth now delivered several pages of material on other subjects for Jane and me. The session finally ended at 11:42 p.m. All right, that is indeed the end of that session. Sometimes when I'm monitoring this on screen, I'm not sure quite where the webcam angle should be, like if it should be a little more to the left, a little more to the right, and so you may see me changing it at times. All right. I don't know why, but I'm hungry early tonight. It's not, I'm not due for lunch until another like 45 minutes at least, but I'm hungry early. Very strange, but well, I'll eat soon enough. Let's just finish this up first. Session 758, October 6th, 1975, 9:14 p.m., Monday. Session 757 was devoted to other matters that Jane and I were interested in. Good evening. Good evening, Seth. Whispering humorously. Dictation. Using an analogy again, the brain is quite capable of operating on innumerable quote-unquote frequencies, each presenting its own picture of reality to the individual, each playing upon the physical senses in a certain manner, organizing available data in its own specialized way, and each dealing somewhat differently with the body itself and with the contents of the mind. Generally speaking, you use one particular frequency in waking life. Therefore, it seems there is no other reality than the one you recognize, and no greater data available than those with which you are normally familiar. Events seem to happen underlined to you. Often it seems that you have no more control over the drama of your own life than you have over the outcome of a television program. Sometimes, however, your own dreams or inspirations startle you by giving you information that is usually not available in the recognized order of events. It becomes very difficult to explain such occurrences in the light of the plots and scenes provided by your usual mental programming. You are so conditioned that even when you sleep, you try to monitor your experiences and to interpret dream events according to the habitual frequency that you have learned to accept as the only criterion of reality. Quite literally, however, when you are dreaming, you are tuning in to different frequencies, and biologically your body responds to those on many levels. For that matter, the body is naturally well equipped to handle quote unquote projection of consciousness or out of body travel, whatever you prefer to call it. Your biological makeup includes mechanisms that allow a certain portion of your consciousness to leave your body and return. These mechanisms are a part of the nature of animals as well. The body is equipped to perceive many other kinds of experiences that are not officially recognized as native to human experience. To one extent or another, then, you learn to constantly monitor your behavior so that it conforms to the established criteria set up for sane or rational experience. You are social creatures as the animals are. Despite many of your cherished, erroneous beliefs, your nations exist as the result of cooperation, underlined not competition, as do all social groupings. To be ostracized is no laughing matter. The comfort of social discourse represents one of the great building blocks of families and civilizations. The set criteria of reality, therefore, operate as organizing, psychic, and physical frameworks. There is still more flexibility within those frameworks, however, than is recognized. You still, underlined, try to carry your own cultural versions of reality into the dream state, for example, but the natural, underlined, heritage of both body and mind escape such repression. And despite yourselves, in your dreams, you come in touch with a greater picture of reality that will not be shunted aside. 939. There is nothing inherent in the waking state that causes it to be so limited. The boundaries set are your own. The body naturally heals itself, for example. Many give lip service to such a belief. In actuality, however, most of you believe and experience a far different picture in which the body must be protected at all costs from a natural leaning toward disease and poor health. Viruses must be warded off, as if you had no protection against them. The natural healing that often occurs in the dream state is undone in the waking state, in which any such cure is seen as quote-unquote miraculous and against quote-unquote the rules. Pause. Yet in your dreams, you often see quite correctly the reasons for your physical difficulties and begin a therapy that you could consciously take advantage of. Waking, however, you forget, or you do not trust what you remember. On occasion, definite physical cures happen in the dream state, even though you may think that you are intellectual in knowing when you are awake, and ignorant or half insane in your dreams. If you were that quote-unquote dumb in the waking state, then you would be in far better health. In such dreams, you tune into other frequencies that are, indeed, closer to your biological integrity, but there is no reason why you cannot do so in the waking state. When such seeming miracles occur, it is because you have transcended your usual official beliefs about your body and its health and disease, and so allowed nature to take its course. Often in the dream state, you become truly awake and grab a hold of your spirithood and creaturehood with both hands, so to speak, understanding that each has a far greater reality than you have been led to suppose. More often, however, there are instead only blurred glimpses and tantalizing views of a more expansive kind of experience. To make matters more confusing, you may automatically try to interpret the dream events according to your usual picture of reality and switch channels, so to speak, as you waken. 957. Suppose that you turned on your television set to watch a program, for example, and found that through some malfunction a massive bleed-through had occurred so that several programs were scrambled, and yet appeared at once, seemingly without rhyme or reason. No theme would be apparent. Some of the characters might be familiar, and others not. A man dressed as an astronaut might be riding a horse, chasing the Indians, while an Indian chief piloted an aircraft. If all of this was transposed over the program that you expected, you would indeed think that nothing made any sense. Each character, however, or portion of a scene would represent in fragmented form another quite valid program, or reality, in brackets. In the dream state, then, you are sometimes aware of too many stations. When you try to make them fit into your recognized picture of reality, they may seem chaotic. There are ways to bring the picture into focus. There are ways to tune into those other quite natural frequencies, so that they present you with a more expansive view both of the world as you define it and of its greater aspects, period. The psyche is not encased, in your case, amused, within a frame too fragile to express it. Only your underlined beliefs about the psyche and about the body limit your experience to its present degree. Take your break, 10:09 to 10:25. Dictation. Seth Jane leaned forward, whispering and smiling, as if telling a joke. In dreams, you are so quote-unquote dumb that you believe there is a commerce between the living and the dead. You are so quote-unquote irrational as to imagine that you sometimes speak to parents who are dead. You are so quote-unquote unrealistic that it seems to you that you visit old houses, long ago torn down, or that you travel in exotic foreign cities that you have actually never visited. Imagine those times when you have a dream that you are so sure was real. In dreams, you are so quote-unquote insane that you do not feel yourself locked in a closet of time and space, but feel instead as if all infinity but waited your beckoning. If you were as knowledgeable and crafty when you were awake, then you would put all religions and sciences out of business, for you would understand the greater reality of your psyche. You would know, quote-unquote, where the action is. The physicists have their hands on the doorknob. If they paid more attention to their dreams, they would know what questions to ask. Long pause at 10:33. The psyche is a gestalt of aware energy in which your own identity resides, inviolate, yet ever-changing as you fulfill your potentials. Long pause. Your dead relatives survive. They often appear to you in the dream state. You usually interpret their visitations, however, in terms of your own station of reality. You see them as they underlined were, confined to their relationship with you, and you usually do not perceive or remember other aspects of their existences that would not make sense in terms of your own beliefs. So, often such dreams are like program dramas, in that you clothe such visitations in familiar props. The same sort of thing frequently occurs when you experience extraordinary flashes of inspiration, or perceive other unofficial data. Quickly, you try to make sense of such material in usual terms. An out-of-body experience into another level of reality becomes a visitation to heaven, for example, or the heretofore unrecognized voice of your own greater identity becomes the voice of God, or a spaceman, or prophet. Your dreaming experience, however, gives you a guideline that will help you understand the nature of your own psyche, and the deeper reality in which it has its being. Again, the dreaming psyche is awake. End of dictation. Give us a moment, or take a brief break as you prefer. 10:44. Go ahead, I said, and Seth delivered material on several other subjects. By now we saw that he was dividing his sessions often into two sections, book dictation, then discussions either on other topics or private material for us. The session ended at 11:34 p.m. All right, so what is going on here? It says the session ended there, but there's no indication of the next session beginning. Well, I guess that part got cut off somehow. But yeah, interesting stuff so far. I'm really enjoying this, even though I can't do this live. I'm enjoying at least being able to record it and just sort of analyze it in my own mind as I go, as I'm reading it. Okay, so continuing. I don't know if this is the next session or not, but I assume that it would have to be. Wait, let me actually see one other thing. No, even the page numbers, it says 26 and 27. I don't know. Weird. Anyway. I nodded, but I'd had a particularly interesting dream experience last night, and I also hoped that Seth might discuss that. As you'll see, he managed to do both, winding a discussion of my dream into his own material about the psyche. Good evening. Good evening, Seth. Dictation. Again, your dreaming psyche is awake. It deals with a different kind of experience than the one with which you are physically familiar, although underlined that experience is also a part of the psyche. Daily life is a focus taken on the part of that portion of the psyche you call you, and there are many other such focuses. The psyche is underlined never destroyed, nor is that unique individuality of your own ever minimized. The psyche's experiences straddle your ideas of time, however. It seems to you quite definitely that you come alive and die. At your particular focus of consciousness, no arguments will suffice to convince you otherwise, for you are everywhere presented with the physical evidence of quote-unquote fact, period. You may believe in an afterlife to some extent or another, or you may or may not be convinced by the general theory of reincarnation, but certainly most of you are united in the seemingly irrefutable belief that you are definitely alive now and not dead. Dead people do not read books, period. And dead people do not watch YouTube videos either. Amused. On the other hand, dead people do not usually write books either, now do they? In a strange manner, I am telling you that your quote-unquote life is simply the only portion of your existence of which you are presently aware. In greater terms, you are alive and dead at the same time, even as I am. My focus, however, is in an area that you do not perceive. Again, existences are like notes played along certain frequencies. You are tuned in to an earth song, following this analogy, but you are only following your own melody, and usually you are unaware of the greater orchestration in which you also take part. Sometimes in dreams you do tune into a greater picture, but again, certain things appear to be facts, and against these so-called facts, even definite experiences can appear ludicrous or chaotic. Last night our friend Joseph had a dream experience that intrigued him, and yet seemed highly distorted. He found himself greeting a large number of people. He believed them to be family members, though he only recognized some. His parents, known to be dead, were there. A brother and a sister-in-law, who are alive, were also present. The brother was definitely himself, yet somehow altered in appearance, his features having an oriental cast. The entire dream was very pleasant and seemed to be like a homecoming. 950. Joseph wondered, however, at this mixture of the living and the dead. It would be easy to think that the dream foresaw Joseph's own death, and that of his brother and sister-in-law. You follow your own time sequences, however. The psyche is not so limited. Two underlined it. Your death has already occurred, from your standpoint. Yet it is also true that from underlined its standpoint, your birth has not yet happened. You have a greater experience, then, of your recognized time and existence frameworks. There, you can meet with relatives long dead, or with children underlined not yet born. There, you can meet other portions of your own personhood that exist simultaneously with your own. In that framework, the so-called living and the so-called dead can mix freely. In such circumstances, you are literally becoming aware of other perspectives of existence. You are turning corners of being and discovering multidimensional depths of the psyche. Artists use perspective on a flat surface to try to capture there the feelings and experiences of depth that are, in themselves, alien to the flat canvas, or paper, or board. The artist may vividly evoke the image of a disappearing road that appears to be broad in the picture's foreground, only to turn smaller and smaller until it seems to vanish in some distant hidden point. No physical person will walk that road, however. An ant crawling upon such a canvas would hasten across just another flat surface, and be quite unaware of the inviting avenue and any painted fields or mountains. Now in the dream state, you suddenly become aware on occasion of greater perspective. This perspective cannot quote-unquote work at your usual level of consciousness, any more than the artist's perspective will work for the ants, though there is much you could learn from an ant's consciousness. Intently. Say that I smiled. 1007. Your own waking consciousness deals specifically with certain kinds of distinctions. These help form the very structure of physical existence. They highlight your lives, providing them also with a kind of frame. Quite simply, you want to experience a certain kind of reality, so you put boundaries about events that allow you to concentrate upon them. When an artist paints a picture, he uses discrimination. He or she chooses one area of concentration. Everything within the painting fits. So in your physical lives, you do the same thing. The artist knows that many pictures can be painted and holds in mind paintings already produced and those in the planning stage as well. So the psyche holds equally lives in progress. Lived or not yet lived. Okay, now that makes sense. And deals with a greater perspective from which your ordinary perspective emerges. I often speak of you and the psyche as if they were separate, yet of course this is not the case. You are that portion of the psyche that you presently recognize. Many people say, I want to know myself, or I want to find myself, when the truth is that few really want to take the time or effort. Pause. There is one place to begin, however. Try becoming better acquainted with the self you are, underlined, now. Stop telling yourself that you do, underlined, not know yourself. There is little use in trying to discover other levels of your own reality if you insist upon applying the laws of physical life to your own larger experience. Then you will always be in a quandary, and no facts will fit. You cannot, however, insist that the laws of your vaster existence, as you discover them, underlined, supersede the physical conditions of your own life. Correction. The physical conditions of known life. For then no facts would apply either. So what is that saying then? You cannot, however, insist that the laws of your vaster existence, as you discover them, supersede the physical conditions of known life, for then no facts would apply either. You cannot insist that the laws of your vaster existence supersede the physical conditions of known life, for then no facts would apply either. Okay. You will expect to live forever in the same physical body, or think that you can levitate your body with your body at will. You can indeed levitate, but not with your physical body, practically speaking in operational terms. You accepted a body, and that body will die. It has limitations, but these also serve to highlight certain kinds of experience. The body in which our friend Joseph viewed his relatives, in the dream mentioned earlier, was not operationally physical. It was quite real, however, and at another level of reality, it was operational, suited to its environment. Take your break, 10:27 to 10:50. Now, in many ways, you simply have a brief attention span. The quote-unquote true facts are that you exist in this life and outside it simultaneously. You are quote-unquote between lives and in lives at once. The deeper dimensions of reality are such that your thoughts and actions not only affect the life you know, but also reach into all of those other simultaneous existences. What you think now is unconsciously perceived by some hypothetical 14th century self. The psyche is open-ended. No system is closed, psychological systems least of all. Your life is a underlined dreaming experience to other portions of your greater reality, which focus elsewhere. Their experiences are also a part of your dream heritage. You may ask how underlined real are those other existences, but if so, you must ask, in whose terms? Existence has a physical version. In that framework, you are born and die, and in a definite sequence. Death is a physical reality. It is real, however, only in physical terms. If you accept those terms underlined as the only criterion of reality, then surely it appears that death is an end to your consciousness. If, however, you learn to know yourselves better in daily life to become more fully aware even of your earthly life, then you will indeed receive other information that hints of a deeper, more supportive reality in which physical existence rests. You will find yourself having experiences that do not fit recognized facts. These can add up to an alternate set of facts, pointing toward a different kind of reality, and give evidence for an inner existence that takes precedence over the physical assumptions. A certain kind of discretion and understanding is necessary, however. Basically, the inner reality is the creative source of the physical one, yet to some extent, the physical rules are also inviolate at their level. All right, so real quick, I'm just going to see how much longer this chapter is. Oh, okay. It is literally almost over. Perfect. Because I am getting hungrier and hungrier, as I mentioned earlier, and I'd prefer to wrap this up soon. (1107) You can learn to vastly enrich your own experience. Theoretically, you can even become aware of other existences to some degree. You can travel in the dream state into levels of reality separated from your own. You can learn to use and experience time in new fashions. You can obtain knowledge from other portions of your own being and tap the psyche's resources. You can improve the world in which you live and the quality of life. But while you are physical, you will still experience birth and death, dawn and dusk, and the privacy of the moments, for this is the experience you have chosen. Even within that context, however, there are surprises and enchantments waiting if you simply learn to expand your awareness, exploring not only the dream state, but your waking reality in more adventuresome ways. Your dreaming psyche is awake. Many of you have allowed your normal waking consciousness to become blurred, inactive, relatively speaking, so that you are only half aware of the life that you have. Underlined, you are your psyche's living expression, its human manifestation. Pause. Yet you allow yourselves often to become blind to brilliant aspects of your own existence. In Joseph's dream, his brother's features had an oriental cast. Joseph knew that his brother lived as himself, and also as an oriental, unknown to Joseph in his present life. If Joseph had seen two people, one his brother and one an oriental, he would not have recognized the stranger, so in the dream his brother's known appearance dominated, while the oriental affiliation is merely suggested. In your own lives, you will use such psychic shorthand, or utilize symbols in which you try to explain the greater dimensions of one reality in terms of the known one. Again, the dimensions of the psyche must be experienced to whatever degree. They cannot be simply defined. In the following chapter, then, I will suggest some exercises that will allow you direct experience with portions of your own reality that may have escaped you thus far. Louder and smiling. End of chapter 2. All right. And as you heard Seth just now, that is indeed the end of chapter 2. So, looks like we've been going for 38 minutes as part of this recording, and then the live stream from earlier was 22 minutes, so that adds up to an hour, so that's not too bad. Although this was pretty short, so I don't know, maybe after lunch tonight I should record another Seth recording, or I don't know if we should try to do a stream again or not, I don't know if it will work or not, but regardless, I might come back with some more tonight, I don't know. We shall see, but chapter 3, for whenever we return next time, is called Association, the Emotions, and a Different Frame of Reference. So won't that be fun and interesting? So, all right, thank you so much for watching this. Again, hopefully when we return with this again, it can be a live stream so that we can have a little more fun and excitement. But for now, this has been enjoyable, and hope everyone stays safe out there. Indeed, we are in the midst right now of some really wretched astrological conditions. Now, I know that not necessarily everyone who goes to watch a video of this nature is going to be into astrology as I am, but just know basically, whether you're interested in astrology or not, if things seem rough right now in your life or in the lives of other people, we are in insane conditions at the moment. That's all I can put it. That's the only way I can really simplify it. I mean, especially with this really bad Mercury retrograde, it's literally the worst Mercury retrograde I've ever seen. Now, I'm not someone who's been an astrologer for, decades upon decades. I'm not like a master astrologer or anything, but I have dedicated my life to this for years now, and it's literally the worst Mercury retrograde I have ever seen, and we have a few of these every year. So, hold on, stand your ground, stand strong, and know that better times are coming, especially as we get into like later this month, like more towards the end of the month. Better times are coming. And really just, well, once we get out of this whole year, things I think are gonna let up, at least to some extent. There will still be challenges, of course, but it won't be as insane as it is now. So stay strong, everyone, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great night. Bye for now.